thought because I might move the cards over this table, so they don't get by me.
It's my honor to introduce our pastor, Father Michael, as our featured speaker today. He is a blessing to St. Michael's parishioners, and we certainly are grateful to have him as our pastor and spiritual leader. Today he will be speaking to us regarding his days growing up in Letterkenny, Ireland. Father, thank you.
Thanks, Kate. And thanks to everyone for being here. It's wonderful to see so many of you have nothing better to do for an afternoon, but that's okay. You know, when Kay asked me some time ago if I would be willing to do this, I said, well, why not? It's easy to talk about Ireland and growing up there. As a matter of interest, how many of you have not been to Ireland?
Have not.
Have not been. Okay, and hands up how many have been.
Wow. Can't wait to go back.
So I think we were probably half and half. Well, it was a wonderful, wonderful place to grow up. I was born in Glasgow in Scotland. My parents lived there at the time. We went back to Ireland when I was about 2 years of age, and for a short time we lived with my grandparents. And my first language is not English. My first language is Gaelic, or Irish as we call it. We lived in a Gaelic speaking district, and we moved to Letterkenny when I was 6 and had no English, and was an English speaking area. But thankfully the teacher in the school spoke fluent Irish, so that was good, the school that we went to. But children pick up languages very quickly. It's just a matter of time before we picked up a little bit of English anyway. My school, most of my grade school was with the Presentation Brothers, and that was a wonderful, wonderful experience. They were delightful, very good teachers, delightful to experience. My high school was our diocesan high school, St. Eunan's College it was called. I absolutely detested the place. Absolutely. My 5 years in high school, we spent 5 years in high school. My 5 years in high school were a nightmare. I hated it every day of it. And then at 17, I went to seminary, and that was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I loved those years, made wonderful, wonderful friends, and even while I was at home there recently, 5 of us got together who had remained as friends right through the years. Now, both my parents actually came from large families. There were 6 in Mum's family and 9 in Dad's. Now, neither of my parents went to high school. They couldn't. There were high school education was not available to them because of how far away the nearest high school was. But my father father at the age of 14 went to what's known as a hiring fair. And a hiring fair, have you heard of them?
Yeah.
A hiring fair where was a place, actually it happened in Letterkenny. Farmers from Northern Ireland would come and they would be wealthy Protestant farmers from Northern Ireland, and then the parents would bring the children. He was only 14, and they went then to work on these farms in Northern Ireland for 6 months. So Daddy's mother brought her to the hiring fair, and he worked. He did that. He did 2 spells of 6 months working on farms in Northern Ireland. After that, then he went to Scotland. My mother did not do the hiring fair thing. But for both my parents, education was extremely important, and I'm one of 7. I'm the second eldest, 6 boys and 1 girl, and all of us went to college because that was hugely important to them. Now the next generation, nieces and nephews, there are 14 of them, and all of them have also gone to college. Now Letterkenny, when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, had a population of maybe 2,000 to 3,000, and I knew probably most of them. I'd be talking to my older brother, and I'd say, well, do you remember that person and that person and that person? He said, well, no. I said, did you know anyone? Did you live in the same town as I did? And but now there's a population roughly about 25, maybe 30,000 in it. The Letterkenny had several factories, textile. There was a very good Oatfields candy factory, and you could even buy them here. The Oatfields sweets, as we call them. There were 2 hospitals. There was a college there. Now Letterkenny is just 17 miles from the border with Northern Ireland, and we grew up during the time, as we call it, the time of the Troubles, when there was so much killing in Northern Ireland. Now we had to cross the border for college to get to Dublin. The seminary I went to was St. Patrick's College, Maynooth, and that is in County Kildare, about 15 miles outside of Dublin. So we had to go through Northern Ireland, and it was kind of frightening because the British soldiers would come in, and they would go through the bus carrying their weapons, and you just hoped that they wouldn't stop with you, But several times I saw them take people off, that kind of thing. It was a very, very not a good experience, but thankfully most of that has died down. As I was an altar server at the cathedral, which is it's my local parish, and I served Mass there for years actually. I also was part of the Presentation Brothers marching accordion band. That's how I started playing the accordion. I also played Gaelic football, very involved in youth club. We went on a Friday and a Sunday growing up. My decision to become a priest, it was something I always wanted to do. And in my high school class, there was probably about, I think 70, 71, 72, and 5 of us became priests. Whereas there had not been a priest for 5, in the whole place for 5 years before that, but 5 of us became priests. 4 of us are still in ministry, one left and got married. My favorite subject in school, believe it or not, was mathematics. I always left my math homework till the end because I enjoyed it so much. And 2 of my friends, actually 2 of them are 2 of the guys who became priests. The 3 of us hung around together, but one of them became a chef first, and then he became a Dominican priest. But neither of the 2 of them could add two figures together. So I would come in the morning and I would, they would say, well, do you have your math done? I said, well, what do you think? So I would give my copybook to them, they would copy. I remember one time, Michael Carney, he was, the teacher called him up to the board and say, can you show us how you done this? So I mean, he had it right, but he had no idea how to do it. That's another story. But, yeah, see, the thing about it is, I couldn't figure out how someone, you're looking at a math problem, I couldn't figure out how you couldn't see that it was, the answer's obvious. But not to poor Michael that day. One of the things we did growing up was, and when we think about it, my brother Brian and I often talk about this, every Sunday we visited my grandparents, and because family was hugely important, and other cousins would come as well. Like, there could be 20, 30 people at my grandparents'. When we think about it now, I mean, when my nephews and nieces bring their 2 children right now, you say, oh my goodness. So when they were, and you see, I have 49 first cousins. So there was a lot of us. But as I said earlier, seminary was a wonderful, wonderful experience. It was friendly, it was very fair. It was regulated, it had to be. Now, we didn't have cars, and we needed permission. It's 15 miles from Dublin, and City Bus served the university and the seminary. We needed permission to go into Dublin, but that was, generally speaking, you got permission. But it was a wonderful experience. Let me see, 66 students came to Maynooth the same day as I went. And of those 66, I think 32 were ordained. And since then, the 2 guys ordained along with me, both of them left. But both of them are happily married, thankfully. But so that's about half. And since then, I think we've lost maybe 10 or 12. Some of you may have heard of John O'Donoghue. He was a poet and a very, very bright guy. He was a classmate of ours. He died some years ago. He gave our reflection at the 25th anniversary mass in the seminary, and he was excellent. But I was ordained on June 21st, 1981, at the cathedral where we had lived, and you know, my appointments were all very, very different. Most of them were. It's on the bio there, so I'm not going to redo that. But I suppose the biggest change that, you see, I was ordained for my diocese back at home, and if someone had told me back then that I would end up well, first of all in the US, secondly in Sarasota, I would say, well, that's not possible. So never say never. Because with God all things are possible. Just briefly, I volunteered to work in Lima. And the strange thing about it is that growing up, I never wanted to work in Ireland. Now, why did I go to seminary for my own diocese? I don't know. I think the thought of leaving home was too great. I just couldn't imagine that I would ever be able to do that. And but then in June of 1989, only 8 years after ordination, I volunteered to work in Lima, in Peru, where we had a mission at the time. And that would have been a 7-year commitment. And I got sick. I got tuberculosis actually at the time. And so long story short, I couldn't go. But at that time, this was 89, there were no vacancies in my diocese. Strange reality. But there were no vacancies and I had no assignment. I was supposed to go on a mission orientation program in August, then go to Cochabamba in Bolivia in January and do a 6-month Spanish program before going on to Lima. As I say, that because of the sickness, that was not possible. Bishop Nevins, the previous bishop of this diocese, an absolute gentleman. He was a friend of my family's. I met him. I was a deacon in Boynton Beach, June of 1980, and Bishop Nevins was an auxiliary bishop of Miami at the time. I was staying in the seminary on the campus of the parish I was helping at. Bishop Nevins had responsibility for the seminary, so his mother came from the same part of, his mother came from Kilcar, and his father came from County Longford. So I was in contact with him, and he said, well, look, if you've no assignment, why don't you come out here? And as it happened, my bishop at that time was from the same village as his mother. You know, there are no coincidences with God. And so he knew Bishop Nevins. So I said, well, Bishop Nevins says, he said, okay, that's grand. So from the bishop's office, I went directly to the travel agent. That's when you had to go through a travel agent to book. So I went to the travel agency in case the bishop, and I booked my ticket that day in case he changed his mind. And that's actually true. And so I came out to Bishop Nevins, and that was January 1990. And around March of that year, I was feeling better. I lived with Bishop Nevins in his home in Venice. He was an absolute gentleman, absolutely. And then he said to me, you know, you're feeling better, are you? I said, yeah. He said, well, you know, would you like to help out somewhere? And I said, oh, I'd love that. So he said, there's a new parish just opened in Sarasota. He said, and he told me, and he said the pastor's from Ennis at home in Ireland, and he said, you know, go up and see, talk to him and see. So I came up, and the St. Patrick's wasn't built as it is now. Where we had church was at Centregate, and a Sarasota Memorial Hospital have an outpatient clinic with a bright blue roof. That was where we had church. As you're going out Bee Ridge Road, it's on the right in Centregate, just before the VA building, I think. So that was those offices was where we held church, and it was wonderful because they were just forming community, and it was a great experience. I absolutely loved it, but unfortunately my bishop at home brought me back. And he said, I have a great assignment for you. I said, okay, what is it? He said, I want you to go to Gweedore, which is a Gaelic-speaking school, and they won't allow you to speak a word of English in that place. I said, and I fell back in the seat. I said, Bishop, you can't be serious. I said, that's a remedy for disaster. I said, if you insist, I will go, but I guarantee you, in about 6 months, I'll be back. If I survive that long. So he said, okay, let me rethink this. So he rethought it, and he sent me as a chaplain, full-time chaplain, to the 2 hospitals in Letterkenny. Again, I absolutely loved that, but the work was really heavy. I would go on duty on a Monday night at 9, and I would stay on duty until the following Sunday night at 9, day and night. And so I was up probably 3-4 nights a week. So I got burned out of that after about 2 years. I asked to come back to the US. In the meantime, you know, there are no coincidences. Sister Krista Cunningham was a nun that I had met before, and she was working in a parish up in Altamont Springs, and so she talked to the pastor. He was from Cork in Ireland, so I came there then for 5 years. The bishop who had let me go was moved to a different diocese. New man came in. He was a Carmelite, absolute gentleman, lovely, lovely man. So he kind of forgot about me. And about 10 years later, I was still over here, obviously. About 10 years later, I was having lunch with one of my priest friends, and the bishop who had allowed me to leave was over in a booth with another priest. He said, Michael Cannon, the only priest that I know who has written his own ticket since the day he was ordained. I said, oh, Bishop, you wouldn't say that. And so it was, then I stayed, and eventually then I went to San Antonio, as you see in the bio, to do a master's degree in social work, and I worked as a pediatric social worker in a hospital in San Antonio for a time. But I missed the parish work. And the nuns, the Incarnate Word sisters, they ran the hospital, but they also ran Incarnate Word University. So at that time, they were looking for a replacement for their chaplain. And they said to me, maybe you could contact a priest there, Father Greg Neville is his name. He was a former chaplain. So I made a call to Father Greg Neville. Silence. I made a second call, left a second message, nothing. Third, nothing. Fourth, nothing. Finally, after 5 calls, I get a call one day. Oh, this is Greg Neville. How can I help you? So anyway, I've never let him forget that. But then we were supposed then to go out for a drink, and I had the evening mass. This was 2000. I had the evening mass at the parish that I was staying in, and so we were going out for a beer after mass. So he was waiting for me, and I didn't show. So when I was having mass, I got severe chest pain, and I knew what it was. And so anyway, I told the pastor. He brought me to the hospital and had a stent put in the following day. Well, that was why I didn't show to Father Greg. But he's not let me forget that either. So, and then obviously then we became good friends. Then after I worked then as university chaplain, and I enjoyed it, but I missed the interaction of a parish, and I realized that's where my heart really lies, not in but I also enjoy the hospital, but not the social work. That was too different. Lots of positive experiences, and when that bio was written, I think I just had arrived here. Actually, I'll be here eight years on November 1st coming up. Hard to believe, but what I was going to say was that all of the experiences, while they were very different, there are a lot of similarities obviously running through them. Oh, yeah, no, I don't know what I was going to say. When I came here, it took me about 3 years to kind of say, oh my goodness, I like being here. My mother had just died as well, just a few months after I got here. Mum had Alzheimer's. She was 88, and she died in January of 2016. So that affected me as well. But our communities, you've heard me say many times, it's very different from any that I've ever worked in before. In that we have those 3 separate groups of people. We have the year-rounders, make up, I think, about 25%. And then we have about 60% then who are here from 1 to 6 months. And then we have the others who are here for some days or weeks. You know, so to try and bring those, create community, I suppose, out of those 3 different segments is very, very difficult. And I had to lower my expectations in that sense, because it was never going to happen in the same way as it happened in previous parishes that were more stable, I suppose. But it's you know, I absolutely love it here at this point, and I'm glad that I'm truly glad that I am here, and I find the community incredibly supportive. So and I really appreciate that. Now, my father is some of you met him when he was here. Daddy is now 95, and while he can't walk at this point, he remains extremely positive. There's never any negativity from him. He's just an incredibly positive spirit. And last year, 2 of our parishioners who have a publishing house here in Sarasota, Seaside Publishing, I think, they're publishers, and they I gave a homily about Donegal, where I'm coming from, where I'm from, and afterwards they asked me, did you ever read the Inishowen Mysteries? And Inishowen is a part of Donegal. And I said, no, written by Carter lady and Andrea Carter. And I said, no. I said, well, they said, we published them. I said, oh, really? So anyway, the next day, numbers 1 and 2 were on my desk, and I started reading them. They were absolutely wonderful. This was a young lady. She was an attorney from the Midlands. She came to work in Donegal, and then she started to write mystery novels about the area, and they were fascinating. So anyway, I read them. So I was home last year, and I had one of them sitting between Daddy's chair and mine. He picked it up and he started reading. He said, oh my gosh, this is really good. And so anyway, long story short, now he's reading two books a week. And he never had time to read growing up, but was 7 of us. But he absolutely loves it. The problem is, when I was at home during the summer, my sister brought 4 books from the library. He had already read 2 of them. But I was telling him I was going to do this today, and he said, "Where are you starting?" And I said, "I don't know. It's probably in Glasgow." He said, "Okay." He said, "Well, just make sure you tell them about your first week in school when you didn't want to carry your coat or your school bag, and you threw it in the ditch, and Charlie had to carry it." And I said, "Well, why would I? Why would I carry it when I knew Charlie was going to be behind me?" But and that's true. I remember doing it, but even though it's a long time ago.
Did you have to go to confession for that, brother?
That was before confession time. I was only 4. My brother Brian, he is Dad's caregiver. He's an RN. He ran the COVID ward in the local hospital during COVID. And when Mum was sick, he took the Irish government allowed people who work like in government jobs, hospitals, nurses, and all of that, teachers, to take time out, if they wish to do so, to care for their loved ones. And Brian gets, I think, €236 a week from the government to look after Dad. It's not an awful lot, but it means that Daddy's at home, and that'd be very important to us. Brian did the same when Mum was sick, and he looked after her as well. So we're so blessed. And he goes right back into, he doesn't lose any seniority in his work when he goes back. And I think the way the government look at it is that if we had to put this person into a nursing facility, it would cost a lot more than, you know, 1,000 or 1,200 a month. So, but we're incredibly grateful to Brian for that. Now, one of the things I was just thinking of, the biggest surprises when I came to the US, number one was that I couldn't believe that one had to call ahead before going to visit some people. That's actually true. I said, I have to call? Because at home, you just go drop in and go ahead, yeah. And the second thing is that high school students with cars, I couldn't. I passed a high school, you know, the first week. I said, oh my gosh, I said, look at all those cars. I said, they must have a large staff. No, they're students' cars. I couldn't believe it. Because even as college students, we didn't have cars. And neither did they have them yet. But, and the third biggest surprise was corned beef. We don't eat corned beef in Ireland. If we do, it comes out of a can.
What do you eat for St. Patrick's Day?
What's that?
What do you eat for St. Patrick's Day?
I don't know. Whatever's cabbage. I don't eat cabbage, or whatever's there, really. There's no particular meal for St. Patrick's Day in Ireland. What's that?
No one gets drunk and celebrates.
Oh, that's what they do, yeah. Liquid diet.
How'd you like it when you had it?
What's that?
How'd you like the corned beef when you had it?
Oh, it was delicious. Absolutely. Oh yeah, well actually on that, I think I told some of you before, around St. Patrick's Day, it was at St. Patrick's Church. Someone brought me to their home for a special dinner, and so she sat me down, or they sat me down, I don't remember, and she said, okay. I said, okay. She said, well, and I didn't know what it was. And she said, well, it's corned beef. I said, oh, okay. She said, well, okay. And she said, do you not like corned beef? Oh, I said, I don't know, I've never had it before. So she was as surprised as I was. That was my introduction to corned beef. What else? Any questions?
I have one that's just a little bit personal, maybe. Since I sit so close to you on the altar so many times, what's the story with your socks? You are definitely not a black or navy.
No, I love socks. I love colored socks. Some of them can be wild. These are fairly tame.
I like the green ones. Black with the green rings. I like those.
Oh yes, yeah.
Father, you said that you always wanted to be a priest until you were 4 years old.
Right.
When did the calling come? How did it come that you felt so strongly about becoming
How did the calling come? I don't know. It was when I remember when I was about 6. Two nuns came to the house one day and they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I said, "A priest." And so it was something that was on my mind right through. But there was one time I was in the seminary, at 4th year, and I decided this was it. I wasn't staying. So, but I couldn't. I couldn't tell my parents over the phone, so I decided I would go home to tell them. So I got home and I was in the house. I came in and Mum said to me, well, I'm glad to see you because your sister here, you need to talk to her. I said, what? Yeah. And then she proceeded to tell me that Eileen, she would be what, 5 or 6 years after me. She was in the convent school, and high school. And she and one of her friends were going in. Daddy let them off the gate, or let her off the gate. So they went in, and of course, brown uniform, and anyone would identify them a mile away. But so Eileen or Colette, I don't know which of them, decided, had a bright idea. Let's skip school for the day, because Eileen knew that my father was going to his work at the other part of the county, and Mum was going to go with him that day. And my aunt, who's a psychiatric nurse and lived with us at the time, would be in the house and she would pull the wool over her eyes easily. So, so apparently there are steps from the walkway into the convent up to the cathedral grounds. So they went up into the cathedral grounds, but they had school bags with them, and they didn't want to be carrying them. We lived about a mile away. And so Eileen had the bright idea, let's throw them into the confessional and we'll get them tomorrow when we come back. So they threw them into the confessional, and apparently someone checked the confessional, because the two girls walked up to the house, and we have, let me see, 2 levels at the front and 3 levels at the back, and there's a stairs going up the side of the house to a balcony, and the door is there, and of course another front door. So anyway, Eileen said, I don't know what she told my aunt, Maria. So the 2 girls, Eileen said, well, let's make a cup of coffee. So my aunt was in the front room, and so the 2 girls were sitting at the end of the table. Big window was here, 2 cups of coffee. Next thing, and this was about 11 o'clock, next thing, my aunt rushes into the back and says, Mother Canis is coming in the gate. Mother Canis was the principal of the school, and she was a tyrant, absolute tyrant. She said, Mother Canis, he said, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So they left the 2 cups on the table. My aunt went down to her room behind, and she was able to see the door. So Mother Canis started knocking on the door, and then tried the handle to see if the door was unlocked. And then she went around the back, up the back steps, and started knocking, and then started looking at the window, and of course saw the 2 cups of coffee. And then she went for the door handle at the back. My aunt said she was terrified in case the door wasn't locked, but it was locked. Anyway, so she went back, and the 2 girls went out, and were on the stairs between the first floor and the second floor, but she couldn't see them. And so anyway, then Daddy was called, and Mum said, I'm not going in to see that woman, you go on your own. So Daddy went down, and Eileen got, I think, 3 days of a holiday. She was suspended for 3 days. And so this happened on the Thursday. I came home on Friday. I'm glad to see you now you can talk to your sister. So I spent the weekend trying to, I don't know what I was trying to do, but I couldn't tell my parents, well look, I'm also leaving seminary. So I went back on Sunday night, and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, and things got better, and I never did leave. And you know what? I only told that story at home my last visit. I don't know why, I just thought about it, and I said, do you all realize what happened that time? Daddy laughed, he said, oh my Lord. So, but you know, there are no coincidences with God. None. So, but so that was the only time really that I thought that you know that there may be something else.
You talked about the conflict and the troubles. What was it like in your family life? What did they convey to you in that time?
My family, what regarding the troubles in Northern Ireland, what did my family convey? Well, our family were not Republican. We're not involved really. Like some of our best friends were our next door neighbour. They were Church of Ireland. Some of our very, very good friends were Methodist, Presbyterian, and there was no distinction made. Certainly over in Donegal, where I came from, between Catholics and Protestants, not so across the border, and not everyone over there either. You know, a lot of Catholics had wonderful friends who were Protestants, and vice versa. But there was that subversive element on both sides. On the Republican side, which is Catholic, on the Unionist side, which was Protestant. Yeah. So we were not involved per se but I knew families where two of my friends that we played Gaelic football with, two of them were locked up in Luncheon. They were on the blanket protest, and I went to see them while they were on the blanket protest. Yeah.
Where do you fall in line with your siblings? Were you the oldest?
I'm number 2.
You're the second.
Yes, my sister's number 5.
Could you elaborate a little bit on why you hated high school?
Could I? Yes, very easily. Bullying was terrible. The bullying was major issue. Yeah, that was it.
You mentioned that you were born in Glasgow. How much do you know of your family history? Were they Scottish or Irish?
My 3 sides of my family were Irish. My grandmother's father was from Edinburgh. He was a military person in the British Army, and he converted to Catholicism as it happened, which was pretty unheard of back then. But he did, and he came to live in Ireland. My father tells me that he was an absolute gentleman, and he learned Irish language. So.
Could you speak a little bit about Bishop Nevins and your relationship with the bishop?
Bishop Nevins was a very kindly individual. He was just a nice man. How many of you knew Bishop Nevins? Oh, quite a number. Okay. He was kindly. Yeah, he was kindly. He was like when I was at the cathedral in Venice. He was lived across the street. Every Sunday evening, he would have the priests over for dinner. As many, you could have 10, 15. He cooked it himself, and he always loved the experience of hospitality. He was a very, very hospitable person. He was the founding bishop of this diocese. When I met him, as I said already, when he was an auxiliary bishop of Miami. He was from New Rochelle, New York, and he also had an MSW from New Orleans. What do you call the Catholic University of New Orleans? Tulane, but he was a good man, and dearly beloved by all.
True gentleman.
He was.
Which we don't have enough of anymore, but we're so lucky to have many of you that are.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'll never leave us.
Don't ever leave. I have no plans. Thanks, Tina.
He said, go on a walk.
Did you?
Go reveal him the hocket.
Oh, good one, you good head.
But it's so nice to speak some Gaelic.
Do you have like a certain period of time that you're here and then you kind of have to see after so many years if they're going to reassign you to the same parish?
Well, you see, the assignment was for 6 years, and it can be extended for another 6. But by then, you know, I'm going to be 70, you know, so we retire at 70, or we can retire at 70. And that's only 4 years for me.
You cannot leave before the whole center.
Oh, yeah, I hear you. No, I don't plan on it. So, but it's a wonderful experience.
Will you go back to Ireland when you retire?
Will I go back to Ireland when I retire? No. That's a question I'm often asked. I couldn't, the weather, let's start there. You know? I mean, even in San Antonio, when we would have kind of 3, 4, 5 dull grey days, that used to get me down. So, I mean, going back to Ireland where they may not see sun for weeks and months, you know, so that's the reason. And the other thing is that even when I go home now, you know, I'm talking to the friends that I had before, but they have no concept of what my life over here is like. So there are lots of stuff I don't even share. And some of you probably have the same experience when you go back north, people that you know, care for and love, but they don't know what your current reality is. And at this point in time, I don't even go there. I just can stay in their reality, and because, you know, but that's what I would do, I think, if God spared me, what I would do is go home, you know, maybe spend 2 months there, type of thing, maybe, and spend the rest of the time here.
In Sarasota.
Sarasota. I couldn't afford to live in Sarasota.
We'll help you.
Yes, Mum and Dad, before Mum got the Alzheimer's, Mum and Dad would come over twice a year, every year, after Daddy retired. They'd come in April and they would come in October, and they would spend anything from 3 to 7 weeks. Yeah, and yes, and most of my family, my sister has not been here, but I think everyone else has been. At St. Michael's, so I've been trying to get her to travel. Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Dara asked about the Gaelic, and let me say the Our Father in Irish then. When you're in the head of the big, the Spirit, Neo, Amen. Our Ned, the Tar New, good knee for Daniel, good duggy the rear, when you enter the holler and tall, mar a near new. Our Naran label to do you new, agus my junior vieha, mar a way Virginia, the record of fame, na liction a gaho, as station go hawk. Amen. The Spirit name. So as you can see, it's quite different.
Thank you so much, Father, for coming today. We'd like to take this opportunity. We'd like to take this opportunity to present a check drawn on the account of the Women's Guild for $10,000 from the funds raised last year. But we are keenly aware that we did not do this alone at all. It was the generosity of everyone in the St. Michael's Parish working with us. So we thank all of you for this check.
Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. Greatly appreciate this and everything that you've done for the community. So, God's blessings.
Father, before you forget, where do we stand with the ministry? Like,
I'm going to talk on that, not this weekend, but the following weekend.
Yeah, and I'll mention